Hey there guys, what's up, what's going on? This is Movie Review Mike 18 here, back with another movie review. In this video, I am going to be reviewing the long-awaited and insanely hyped Avengers Endgame. This is the 22nd film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and essentially the frickin' culmination of 11 plus years of films that Marvel has been building to since 2008. Before I get into the review, I'm sorry for the fact that I did not really upload any videos during the month of April. I was just busy. I was either busy with work or projects, and in any free time I did have, I spent that time rewatching the older films in the MCU or rewatching clips on YouTube. Yeah, that's right. I was that hyped for this movie. And of course, guys, no spoilers. That's the second disclaimer. I'm not going to spoil anything for you guys, alright? Don't worry, don't click away from this video if you are worried. Maybe don't read the comments. So Avengers Endgame picks up right where the events of Avengers Infinity War concluded. Yes, I am going to spoil Infinity War for you guys. If you haven't seen Infinity War by now, then I don't know what you're doing here, quite frankly. So Thanos won and snapped half of the universe out of existence. His dreams came true, and the Avengers were essentially defeated. We are focusing on the remaining Avengers who had survived, and ironically, 6 of the original founding Avengers from the first Avengers movie back in 2012 did survive the snap along with a few other characters. They suffered a massive defeat and honestly lost so much and lost so many people that they cared about, but they are determined to put together a plan in motion to defeat Thanos and undo the events of the snap. That's it. That's it. That is all I'm saying. Why, you might ask? Well, that's all the trailers told you. This was easily my most anticipated film of 2019. Just to give you guys background on my connection with the MCU, I was 11 years old when Iron Man released back in 2008, and I have since grown up with this series and watched literally all other 21 films leading up to Avengers Endgame in the theater. That's right, I have not missed one of those movies. I saw every single one, and I have seen several of them numerous times. The hype that I built for myself going into this movie, and the amount of expectations and anticipation I had writing on this film, holy sh**. I'm just gonna cut to the chase really quick here, guys. This movie is f***ing amazing. Avengers Endgame is thrilling. It is riddled with high stakes, just pure grade A, high blockbuster, just fun. This movie is exciting, it is emotionally resonant, and most important of all, it is 100% worth the build-up that Marvel has been creating, and all of these storylines and character arcs that they have been building to for 11 years now. Any questions or desires or big scenes that we wanted to see play out are answered. So many things and storylines and character arcs are beautifully wrapped up and concluded in so many emotionally satisfying ways. There's moments that were set up in other movies that are sometimes beautifully and sometimes really surprisingly paid off in ways I never knew I either needed or wanted. Now look, guys, I can sit here and just go on a 10-minute fanboy like rave about everything that, you know, made me lose my shit. And I did. I had moments like that in this movie, but my mission is to be completely honest and straightforward with you guys. This is not a perfect movie, okay? No movie is perfect. There are going to be issues. There's going to be things you can nitpick. Although I had a blast and enjoyed the hell out of myself in this movie, I'm not going to sit here and be like, this is the be-all, end-all of superhero movies. I just really need to praise everybody who worked on this movie, all of the filmmakers who came together and worked on this movie, starting and not ending with the Russo brothers. They have just worked their asses off for the last 4 movies they've done for the MCU. Starting with Winter Soldier, then going into Civil War, and then shooting Infinity War and Endgame back to back. I can just imagine the amount of stress and utmost pressure that they had to deal with this movie especially. Like, of course, they had to handle a lot of back with Infinity War, and there were so many characters they needed to incorporate into that story, And in my opinion, Infinity War is up there in my top 5 of MCU films. I thought everything was handled beautifully. The pacing in that movie was incredibly phenomenal. And they do it again here. They knock so many things just way out of the park. Blew so many expectations I had out of the water. All those like fan theories that people probably had going into this movie, yeah, crushed all of them, gave us so many surprises, and made the experience all the worthwhile. And I just really got to give my hat off, tip my hat to them, the screenwriters of this movie as well, for putting together such an epic, just grand experience to cap off the first 3 phases of the MCU. It really is just unbelievable and undescribable. I don't know how you just are in charge of a project with this big a scale. I can't imagine working on a project like this in my lifetime. I would lose my mind. And of course, I need to praise this cast. I'm not going to talk about who's in this movie. I'm not going to talk about individual performances, but everybody's incredible, okay? I think it's redundant at this point for me to say that Robert Downey Jr. is amazing as Iron Man, or Chris Evans kicks so much ass as Captain America. Everybody brings everything to the top of their game in terms of the cast and the performances, and I was just 100% satisfied with everything on that front. I really liked how each sort of act was paced for this movie. Now, this movie's 3 hours long. That is the longest MCU film that we've had, and some people are going to go into that and hate this. Some people are going to have very weak bladders, and yeah, it's going to f them up. The runtime in this movie is perfect. I wouldn't have really cut anything. There might be a scene or two we didn't really need. There might have been 2 or 3 more scenes that we did need, honestly. There's so much ground they needed to cover, and I think that runtime was honestly perfect. And I did, at not one point throughout this entire movie, feel a sequence was boring, or did I ever fall out of this movie and feel that something just wasn't working or the pacing just went to crap. Everything just felt about right in terms of pacing and the sort of tonal routes that each act of this movie tries to follow. You see, the first act of this movie is very slow moving and very character building as we focus on how these characters are dealing with the events of Thanos' snap. And we're able to take time with these characters and see what they're up to. And I really loved that. Then we get into Act 2 and the stakes just rise, the excitement just comes in, and I just had a blast. I was wide-eyed watching the screen the entirety of Act 2. I laughed, I had a great time, there was a great balance of humor and a great balance of the drama and tension that the characters are facing to accomplish their mission, and it really was incredibly satisfying. And then come Act 3, all hell breaks loose. Act 3 is just an utter ride and blast of fun and action, and honestly has some of the best moments of this entire series. Of all 22 films, the third act of this movie just has some of the best moments. That's all I can tell you guys, but wow. I also think it's just redundant to talk about the score by Alan Silvestri. Yes, it was amazing. Beautifully put together. It's also redundant just to talk about how good the frickin' special effects in this movie are. Everybody looks amazing. CGI is incredible. Do I really need to go any further? You guys all knew this going in. The production, just elements and design and the production quality is honestly just the best of its game for an MCU film. All in all though, as I said before, no movie is perfect, and you can say the same for Avengers Endgame. I did have a flaw or two with this movie. There are little nitpicky things during the second act that I noticed where I'm sitting there asking myself, but if this happened, how is this possible? Or how are little things like this possible? A few choices maybe I didn't necessarily agree with that were picked, but all in all, good stuff. As incredible and just batshit crazy as the third act of this movie is, and despite how awesome everything feels and satisfying it all is, I do think there are times where I feel like things get bloated, or it feels like that they did have too much to handle, and not every character may get their moment to shine like you'd kind of want. For the most part, things were wrapped together so beautifully, and we got to see all that we pretty much wanted to see, and we got to see things we didn't expect we were going to see going into this movie. But there's just so much going on in this third act, and so many people to focus on, it can get quite difficult to give every single character a moment to shine. But honestly, that's a problem that could go away upon repeat viewings, and never at once did it hinder my enjoyment of this movie as I was watching it. I also just, in all honesty, guys, had one of the best theater experiences I've probably ever had in my life watching this movie. I saw this movie with an excellently respectful crowd. Yes, of course, we screamed and shouted and got loud at certain moments that called for that, but you can't freaking help that. Yes, there's a lot of fan service and fan satisfying moments to this movie that do happen and did blow me the hell away. But honestly, guys, there are moments in this film I was shaking. I was sweating. I was like physically, I had a physical reaction to watching this movie. I was physically shaking in my seat. Like, what the hell's gonna happen next? Holy crap, that thing just happened. What the F? How are they gonna deal with this now? You know, like, oh my goodness. You know, I had so many just little nerdgasm fan moments like that. All I will say with this much is in regards to characters and things concluding, this film is the perfect conclusion to not only the Infinity Gauntlet saga that was set up in Avengers Infinity War, but also just so many concluding stories for the OG Avengers team from the first movie back in 2012. And honestly, it's the perfect movie to cap off the first 3 phases of the MCU over the last 11 years. It really is. If this was the last movie to end the MCU forever and we got no more after this, I would not care in the slightest because of how satisfying and how well paid off everything was in this movie. This is not a movie, guys. This was an experience for me. This was the grand payoff of a series of films that I have grown up with in my lifetime. And that's not why I loved this movie. That's not why. Yes, there's fan service. Yes, there's little payoff, little nerdgasm comic book moments that you just geek the hell out over. Of course, you gotta come to expect that in the MCU films. But this is just genuinely an incredible experience to behold. And the way that things are paid off, and the way that choices are made, on the screenwriting front, on the director front, on everybody that was involved in this film, that is what makes this a great movie. In the end, I am going to give this movie a solid grade of a 4.5 out of 5 stars, or a grade of an A. Personally, right now, I do not feel this is the best film in the MCU. I do feel that we have had better films so far. That being said, I've only seen this movie once. I also only saw this movie Thursday night, opening night, in a completely packed and sold out show, by the way. And I do need to see this movie again, and there are so many questions I do have. There are a lot of things that were answered perfectly for my first viewing, but there are so many other questions, so many moments I'd love to see and experience again. So Avengers Endgame, my most anticipated film of the year, has come and gone, and this honestly was the thing I was looking forward to the most out of the entire month of April, probably out of this whole year so far, and now it's over, so that's great. Yeah, I would say go see this movie, but no shit. Of course you guys already saw this movie by the time this video goes up. The damn movie made $1.2 billion during its first 5 days of release. That's right, the first film to ever crack $1 billion after being in the theaters for only 5 days. It's safe to say that this was the film event of an era, and you guys probably already all saw this movie. But if you have not yet seen Avengers Endgame for whatever reason, I hope this review did convince you to go see it, because it's awesome. Go see it. Let me know down below. I'll start an active dialogue with you. What are the best moments of the movie? What did you love about this movie? What did you hate about this movie? I want to hear everything, all of your thoughts down below. Thank you guys, as always, so much for watching my videos. I greatly appreciate it. Take care. I will see you guys in my next video.